heroes because I left Belfast 30 years ago. I'm probably more of a New Yorker at this point. I shouldn't say that though here. But it's amazing the changes that have happened, and I love to go back and see my family and friends every year, and each year there's a lot happening. And that's what we're going to hear about today, the fostering the sustainable transatlantic partnerships that makes Belfast flourish. So I'm joined on the panel today by Clare Guinness, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of Belfast, and I also have Damien Martin from Belfast, Strategic Director of Place and Economy, Belfast City Council. And beside me here is Bernard McGuire, MD 57 Stars, Global Asset Management Company. And I have, as well, at the in between Clare and Damien, I have Mike Stamatis, and he's CEO of Red Hook Terminal. And I have to say, I have not done them justice. You please need to go online and see their bios. They are absolutely amazing. But let's get started. So, Clare, first question for you. There's quite a delegation over here from Belfast. So can you tell us a little bit about their aspirations, the partnerships that they hope to forge or sustain while they're here in Belfast, or New York, sorry.
Thanks a million. Yes, we've got over 20 delegates here, all members of Belfast Chamber. And I guess we are an outward-looking city, and we do really genuinely value the partnerships and relationships we have with particularly New York, but also US in general. I work very closely with the US consulate in Belfast, and we're delighted to have one and have had one for so long. So we wanted to bring this delegation over, and they've been supported by InvestNI, the wonderful Queen of Americas, as I call her, Andrea Hawkian. In terms of, and Northern Ireland Bureau as well, in terms of, kind of opening, renewing relationships, visiting existing clients, looking for opportunities for doing more trade. And I think what the really heartening thing is now, there's about 50 companies investing in America that are from Northern Ireland, and they're employing over 2,000 people, some of which are in the room today. We've got Lagan here, we've got Halo Body Cams, etc. They're setting up teams here, they're employing US citizens. We're making a really active outward direct investment contribution for a very small place in the US, which has grown year on year. And of course, we continue to welcome FDI opportunities in Belfast. And so we just want to keep those transatlantic relationships going, find more opportunities, and really build on the economic, the social, and the community and the relationships that we've got.
Thanks, Clare. And talking about investments, so my next question is to you, Bernard, who's the representative for Controller de Napoli. And I was very surprised to hear that you're no stranger to Belfast, that you've gone there very many times, probably more so than my husband, who claims to have been there 40 times. So can you tell us a little bit about the investments that you're making on Controller de Napoli's behalf? And in particular, I'm really interested to hear more about the latest investment, ISMOS.
Sure, thank you. I guess one of the things I've realized over time is that defining it as just a Northern Ireland opportunity is too narrow. These companies, like companies everywhere, have big ambitions, great technology, big ideas, and they're going everywhere, and any company of any scale has already gone somewhere else. It had to have left Northern Ireland, to grow and prosper. And so it's really an opportunity, certainly from a business perspective, across the islands, the UK as well as Ireland. And then beyond, it just so happens that these companies are all based in the north, and nobody ever bothered looking there before. And so it's been a great experience for us to find these gems, locally there, and people with great ambition. I think ISMOS is a great example of this. So Sam, grew up locally there, went to the United States, spent a long time in the semiconductor industry in the United States, but when he wanted to build his second company, or third, I think maybe even at this point, he came back to Belfast and established or bought a foundry that somebody else was exiting and built that business there. And that business is selling to customers all over the world. We believe it has a new architecture for next generation chips that will really be needle moving in the space that they're focused on. That's now proving out with test customers. They already have a base of business for other products. And so we're very excited about it. It's in sustainability. It's in electric vehicles. It's in power management for electric vehicles, things like data centers. And so I think they're just one of many of the companies that we're involved with that are doing things many other places. They're just harnessing ambition and expertise and technology locally there.
Great. No, thank you so much, Bernard. Looking forward to hearing from more of those companies. And so my next question is for you, Mike. When we talked earlier, you were telling me about the wonderful plans for Red Hook terminal and the harbour. And of course, Belfast is a harbour, so there's a lot in common there. So can you share a little bit about what you plan to do, your aspirations, your goals? And then I'll turn to Damien after that, who can talk about what Belfast has done in Belfast Harbour.
Sure, and thank you, Susan. And I'd really like to thank Marcin for inviting me here today. And I'm thrilled to be here and looking forward to my first visit to Belfast and Belfast Harbour later this year. So there's some really exciting things happening in the Port of New York and particularly in Brooklyn. And for many years, the Port of New York sort of evolved into the Port of New Jersey because that's where many of the investments were taking place when it came to ports. So we've worked and endeavored very hard over the last 10, 12 years to change that. And for example, today there's a big city council meeting going on regarding a whole new master planning process for the Brooklyn port facility. That'll include over $1.5 billion of new investments to rebuild the port facilities that have been deteriorating over many years. And we talked a little bit about on our earlier discussion that we're now well underway of construction of a brand new offshore wind port, completely dedicated to the construction of offshore wind farms. The first project, Empire Wind, is investing over $1 billion into the port facility. And this is a port facility that was basically closed for 40 years. And it's a miracle that it remained intact and empty for all that time. But thanks to the state of New York, the city of New York, my partners and I, and Aquino, who's the Norwegian energy company who's building the offshore wind projects, it's getting a brand new investment, new life, new jobs will be created. There's 1,000 workers there today rebuilding the port, which will be state of the art. And we're hoping to continue those types of investments with the new master planning process for the Brooklyn Marine Terminal. Technology is going to play a key role in many of these things. Electrification is going to be key. We are actually the first terminal in the Port of New York that deployed zero-emission electric vehicles. We're working on new technology related to hydrogen that will allow us to, at some point, have our port in Brooklyn be completely sustainable, zero-emission, and a crucial hub for sustaining the 9 million plus people in New York City when it comes to food and other consumer goods that are necessary. And we've experienced some pretty horrific events here in New York, so we've seen firsthand how not having a port facility can really put the city and the state at a detriment in times of crisis. So we've solved many of those issues, and if you come and visit us, which I invite you to do, you'll see that we have the greatest view of New York Harbor from our facility, which is actually, for me, is a curse when you think about the competing uses for that kind of commercial real estate. So today's council meeting is really about how much of the property can be redeveloped for housing and new commercial and other recreational use, but it's also about preserving the maritime history and culture and the crucial port activity that we have there today.
Well, thank you, Mike, for that. That was really insightful. And thank you for the invite for Brooklyn. My husband will be very pleased with that. So now let me turn to Damien. Because Damien, when I spoke to Mike earlier, and I left Belfast, as I said, 30 years ago, there was the cranes, Harland and Wolff, and that was it. And today we have the Titanic Hotel, Titanic Quarter, the museum. I will let you tell the rest of the story.
So I suppose, I think the harbour It's probably a reflection of where Belfast has come from and is going to. I mean, it's an incredible example of 30 years ago where that sort of deindustrialisation in essence left lots of land. That's what it left. And what we've created, both sides of the river lagging, is then the investment in the new types of technologies, whether actually green tech, again, big focus. We have companies here, Artemis and Catagen, and they're all down in that same area. The harbour itself investing again in major new port terminals, looking at clean energy and capability, but also then recreating the city itself. So we're recreating the city, but building off that history, which we're all so proud of. So, you know, the Titanic Hotel sitting beside the Titanic visitor attraction, but also then new housing building along that, a new city being created right along the water side, using that asset, but trying to build, well, not trying to build, building a new Belfast. We also have Queen's University down there with our Centre for Cyber Security. So whole new city, whole new vibrant city in which people are living, working, investing, with major plans for further development. So some people might know our sort of largest housing development now coming out of the ground. We've now got the challenge of some of our key assets that we're invested in, and now we're building around them, and there's a bit of, oh, do we not want to be able to see them? But of course, the plan always was that we were going to develop all of that, and that's what we're seeing. So it's an incredibly exciting time, and you've seen it, the city change in front of us. And just reflecting the video, I think the other bit that I love now is maybe a bit of the confidence coming back into ourselves. I loved it when I saw the term banter there. I'm not sure 10 years ago we would have said banter, that bit of stepping into who we are and having a bit more confidence in who we are and speaking authentically about the city, I think is something that's really come back for us as well.
Thank you so much, Damien. Clare, I'm going to go back to you because when we spoke earlier, you talked about how the businesses that have been set up there for quite some time from the US, like Citi, Aflac, Allstate, how they have inspired the young people and their entrepreneurial spirit, and obviously that's something that you're looking for, Bernard, as well, when you look through investments. But can you tell us a little bit more about that, Clare?
Yeah, I guess when you're looking at some of the high growth sectors, tech in particular, fintech more specifically, cyber, reg tech, all following, they all are spawned, a lot of those, the capability was spawned from those initial big investments. So Citi, for example, and I know Andrea was key to the Citi coming when they originally came. They're about to make another big announcement about expansion, but they came with the idea of 500 jobs and they're employing 3,000. But they're the most innovative tech, high-value jobs that are being done in Belfast. It's not some back office at all. We've long left that place. And so I'm very proud of that because obviously the people that have those experiences, they've worked in Citigroup, they've worked in Allstate, and they are now in other businesses, growing other businesses, starting their own companies, and that whole sort of ecosystem now around tech is really quite mature in Belfast. And actually we have a lot of similarities with Brooklyn, for example. I was with Brooklyn Chamber yesterday, and their largest sector for growth is tech as well. So watch this space. We're going to do some collaborations there.
Thank you, Clare. And Bernard, when you are doing the investments into Northern and Ireland, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're looking for and the partnerships that you rely on to help sort of guide you and show you where that talent and that entrepreneurship lies?
Yeah, sure. What's been interesting is we have focus sectors that we have for around the world, and we've been able to invest in those locally as well. But we're, I'd say, open to all kinds of investments from a bit earlier stage all the way to a growth private equity deal, all the way to a buyout, whatever makes sense for the company, the market, the right type of capital. So we're not prescriptive in, oh, we'll only do this. But we've been focusing on healthcare, we've been focusing on software, tech, we've done sustainability, and those are a lot of our sectors for around the world as well. And I think there is an ecosystem of support there that Invest NI and people like the Chamber and the City Council and are very collaborative, and you have the advantage that everybody there knows everybody else and is very tight. There'd be a lot of cities around the world that would love to have that connectivity amongst the various bodies and working together. And I think you really do see everybody pulling the oars in the same direction there compared to maybe other markets. And that's just great and supportive, for the whole market at large.
No, thank you for that. And then I'm just going to go back to Mike and Damien. So you touched on the wind energy. So Mike, if you can tell us a little bit more about it, and then Damien, I know you told me that there's similar projects in place. So then I'll ask you to pitch in after that.
Sure. So, I think Damien can tell us that Belfast Harbor is a little bit ahead of us here. You had an offshore wind port many years ago, about 11 years ago, it's still in continued development. So what we're building in Brooklyn will be the largest offshore wind dedicated port on the East Coast. Empire Wind will bring 816 megawatts of wind power directly into our port facility, connecting to a new substation that is currently under construction. The wind farm will be operated from a new command center built at the facility, and we're expecting to have that construction done in about a year from now, with the first vessels arriving from Europe with the wind turbine generators, the blades, and tower sections. And these will be the largest components ever manufactured, and this will be the largest wind farm activity in the U.S. when those first vessels arrive. So we're starting things today like training our workforce to be able to operate very specialized equipment that they've never seen before, to be able to move 1,000-ton turbines and blades that are longer than a football field, and to be able to safely maneuver and handle those components. We're going to have the world's second largest crane, which will be a ring crane, 3,500 tons, coming to the facility starting in January. It comes in containers and takes 2 or 3 months to assemble. We're going to start training our workforce to operate that crane. There's a Belgian company today that will be bringing that in, and we're going to be starting an apprenticeship program. So there's a lot of new activity all being generated and started because of the offshore wind commitments that New York State has made, which is the largest on the East Coast, 9 gigawatts of offshore wind power. As soon as we get past the political pause that we have today with wind power and some other renewables, we hope to get back in business. And some of the other things that Damien was talking about were today with the council meeting happening is about transforming the 122 acres of this prime waterfront real estate, not only preserving and expanding port activity, but really building a new city. Right? This will be 25 to 30,000 new residents that will be coming into this community, surrounded by a port, surrounded by a cruise port, a wind port. It's really an unprecedented opportunity, I think, in the last 40 years when, as I said earlier, it was really the Port of New York turning into the Port of New Jersey, but we're taking it back, and we're going to take as much back. And I'm from New Jersey, and I started my career in Port Newark and so forth, and we still operate facilities in New Jersey, but our heart is in Brooklyn.
Thank you. And Damien, really quickly, so hopefully also Mike's going to make it to the homecoming in Belfast, so I know that you'll introduce him to plenty of folks with Belfast Harbour.
And we're going to have a crane competition. We've good cranes too, as well. And for those that don't know, the other big investment along with the winter is actually in the cruise terminal. And that's the stuff of dreams in terms of the change in our city. We're a great place to cruise to. I probably didn't see that coming 20 years ago. But for those of you who've stayed and been there for a day, you get why it's well worth coming on a cruise and then even staying an extra couple of days. So crane competition coming up September 2025.
I don't think
ready.
it's a competition. I think we know who'll win that one. I think it has to go to Belfast.
You're not allowed to have a yellow crane, by the way. No yellow cranes.
I can tell you we just ordered a new crane for the terminal. And it's actually being built in Ireland, so.
Oh, well,
we will
maybe
be,
yours will
be
win.
coming not only to visit Belfast Harbour, but also a tour of the great factory building our new crane for Brooklyn.
I think maybe Martine's going to make something of that, the Battle of the Cranes, who knows?
And just to add something in there, if I can, Belfast Harbour have made huge investments in our port, and the port is 20% of the city, so it's a massive part of our city. And we're the only port on the island of Ireland that can deal with the new size of offshore wind generation and turbines, etc. So, you know, that's quite a unique selling point too, and a real USP for Belfast and Belfast Harbour.
Absolutely. So I think we're running out of time. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Clare, to thank Mike, to thank Damien, and to thank Bernard. And looking forward to hearing from more. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.